Leading a startup team, whether you're delivering a sugar rush, stocking coffee, or getting a regular delivery of snacks, Office Depot has solutions that fit every startup culture, from getting those first business cards and stationery to ordering fleece pullovers with your new logo. To learn how Office Depot and the California Technology Council have partnered to bring you savings on all of these startup essentials and more, go to californiatechnology.org/member benefits. I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. The embattled Pharma executive Martin Shkreli, whether intentional or not, has ignited a long, smoldering public policy discussion about the pricing of pharmaceuticals. As there are growing calls for steps to restrain drug prices, there are also industry concerns about the effects such actions would have on the ability to attract investment and pursue the development of high-risk innovative therapies. We spoke to Denis Corin, CEO of Q BioMed, an acceleration and development company, for a perspective on the fallout from Shkreli, how to balance innovation with affordability, and whether he expects any lasting impacts on small drug developers. Denis, thanks for joining us.
Danny, thanks for having me. I appreciate being with you.
We're going to talk about the pharma executive everyone loves to hate, Martin Shkreli, the impact his controversy has had on the industry, as well as pricing of drugs and balancing incentives for innovation with the need for affordability. As an introduction to our listeners, perhaps you can begin with what you do at Q BioMed, a public accelerator and developer of drugs.
Well, we're a fairly young company. I've been in the biotech sector for 12, 13 years in biotech, and also come from large pharma, even some medical device experience. And over the years, I've seen some really innovative young technologies, very promising assets, either in public companies, on the shelf somewhere, or in academia, waiting, looking for a home. Or just young companies sort of struggle to make it beyond their initial idea, where they finance themselves through, their friends and family money, maybe some small grants from government or research institutions. And then they get to that point where, they need to make that next step and make that next advancement. And they're either stuck in this little no man's land where, they're trying to court venture capitalists to take a big position. And if those guys do, and in most cases they don't because they're too early stage, the venture capitalist wants to own 80 or 90% of the deal, and then they'll take that on and off they go. And the next time anybody hears about it is when it's a big IPO with JP Morgan 3 years later. Or they're going to go and do some kind of reverse merger or try to go public on their own, and sort of delve into the quagmire that is that marketplace. So a lot of these times these companies run out of money and they don't have the right management, they don't have the right public market experience, and these technologies just kind of die on the vine. And it's a real shame because there's so many innovative scientists and researchers and entrepreneurs out there trying to bring exceptional products to market, but they don't quite have all the tools to get them that next step. And we've seen this happen a lot. We've lived and breathed it ourselves. And we sat together one day and said, look, why don't we set up an accelerator where we can bring a lot of those assets, whether it's capital, human capital, scientific advisory people, clinicians, people who really understand the drug development process, bring that to some of these innovative technologies and help accelerate their development, whether it's through a proof of concept trial or into revenue generation, or whatever that next value inflection point is, and help bring those languishing assets, if you like, to a great value inflection point. So we set Q BioMed up as that accelerator type company. We put together a tremendous team from a management team to scientific advisory people, and we're actively looking for innovative assets that we think will provide tremendous benefit, and we look forward to bringing those assets through their product life cycle and allowing investors to participate in the growth of those assets.
When you make a decision about whether to invest in an experimental therapy, what's the calculus and how does pricing fit into your thinking, even though that may years away from a product coming to market?
Yeah, well, at this stage, it often the price doesn't isn't sort of top of mind. We're really looking for what is the market that we're trying to address? What is the patient need? Where are there gaps in the marketplace where we think we can bring an innovative technology? So we'll look at an asset. For example, the first one we just did in the last quarter is our first asset. It's in the glaucoma space. Here's an area in ophthalmology where the last drug to successfully come to market in this particular indication was 20 years ago. It was mechanoprost by Pfizer, and the market has a huge demand for some new innovative technology. So we see here a gap in the marketplace where there's a massive demand for a product. 16 million people around the world going blind, and we need some innovation and some new products in this space. So we see an opportunity like that. We think there's a tremendous market for it, and we work really hard at finding these innovative technologies. And if you want to bring the whole sort of pricing spectrum to bear in this, I think this is where innovative entrepreneurs and scientists and researchers and academia sort of come together in bringing these ideas and these new discoveries forward. I can't say always to fruition because many drugs fail along the way, but the idea here is to develop them and try and get them through those proof of concepts. And people like me and small biotech companies are doing this on the shoestring budgets, and we're all out there pounding the streets and raising money wherever we can to reach those next milestones and build value for our investors and our shareholders, but also ultimately to help hopefully bring a much needed product through its life cycle and some type of commercial viability.
Well, Martin Shkreli earlier this month was called before Congress. He's come to embody a certain unrestrained greed that the public has come to associate with the pharmaceutical industry as a whole. How much damage do you think he's done?
It's the court of public opinion right now, so it's a quagmire to sort of step into. But given this is my opinion, I'm happy to share it. But, I think he's done some damage in. It's really just all about the attitude that he brought with him. When he did what he did, and the way he went about it. We all know. If in the real world out there, it costs money to produce. Whatever the product is, whether it's drugs or anything else, and you want to go and sell that for some sort of profit to be able to sustain your business and reinvest in the drug development pipeline or whatever your business happens to be. I think the way that Shkreli went about it was really off the reservation, and it's certainly not indicative of the way I would conduct myself or our business. Or and I rub shoulders with many pharma executives and entrepreneurs who are out here every day trying to raise money and put together projects for the least amount of money possible to bring these projects forward. So I don't think it's indicative of the majority, if not any of the pharma executives that I know, or the biotech executives that I know. And I think, big pharma is relying a lot more on small biotech innovators like ourselves to come up with the pipelines of these new drugs. They're not innovating themselves as much anymore. They're not developing their own pipelines. They're now more traditionally actually buying their pipelines. So they do rely on people like us and the biotech, sort of the junior biotech market, to go out there and bring these drugs to a point where the pharma companies can buy them or take some interest in them. And unfortunately, Shkreli did this, at a time when, obviously, healthcare or Obamacare is top of mind. People are seeing, increased costs everywhere in terms of, just getting access to drugs. And he also happened to hit it in an election cycle, so it's gonna hit the press and the way we're force-fed media these days and social media. It really kind of blew up, and then of course, the campaigning candidates jump on it as well because it's a headline grabber. So I think it's a very difficult sort of line to walk when it comes to the cost of the actual production of a drug eventually getting through all the regulatory hurdles that it has to get through, and providing that drug at a reasonable price where the company that makes it is going to be able to reinvest in additional pipelines or an additional product innovation at the same time as presenting a reasonable rate of return to their investors and shareholders, but ultimately be able to provide a drug to patients that really need them at a price that's reasonable and that's affordable and that the healthcare insurers can adequately cover. So it is a bit of a tough one to kind of get into. I think the way he went about it was completely contrary to the way I would manage myself and my business. And many of us, I know, feel the same. I think the reason we do what we do, and certainly the reason I do what I do, is to, ultimately bring much needed product to the patients that need them. So if we can provide somebody with, some, a life-saving cure or, a few years of pain-free life at the end of life, or just eliminating pain from a very painful condition, or whatever it might be, to provide comfort to patients in need, and all of us have been touched by disease, whether it's cancer or something else. The reason I do what I do, and the reason why a lot of the people around me and the people that I work with do what we do, and especially the scientists who are the real innovators behind all of this, the reason we all do what we do is to ultimately, find solutions to some of these most debilitating diseases and pain and suffering that people have to endure, not only the patients, the families and people that care for them that are around them. And, that's certainly a driving factor for me. And, I've lost my dad to cancer a couple of years ago. And, we've seen so many people suffer, and, what I think sometimes is needlessly through horrible, painful diseases, when I know there are these innovative products out there that need to get through the development process. So, I think we have to be good corporate citizens. We have to want to do this for the right reasons. It's not just about the dollars, as many people would think Shkreli is all about, but it's about, bringing the right product to the right people. And at the same time, you have to run a business, and it has to be able to support itself and be able to reinvest in your pipeline.
Well, even before the controversy over Shkreli, the public had low opinions of the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, we're long past the days when Merck was the most admired company in America. In fact, a Harris poll found 89% of both Republicans and Democrats blamed the drug industry for the high cost of healthcare. I'd argue he put a face on the problem, albeit a rather smug one, that reinforced what the public already believed. Do you think he's actually changed anything?
I think in some ways maybe he's shone a spotlight on maybe on the issue, or where people want to focus their attention. Danny, there's conspiracy theorists on the side of every argument on both sides of the spectrum. So we all hear crazy rumors about the pharma industry and people wanting to see people quit because that's where their money comes from. I don't see it. I see the scientists in the trenches. I see the entrepreneurs, trying to bring these products to market and getting through the FDA and working, really hard to bring these products through their development life cycle. And, executives going, I'm talking about the junior biotech sector more specifically than big pharma. We're the guys out there, not taking salaries and working for magic beans to try and make these things work. And it's a little bit of a different side when people look at the big farmers and the Merck and the Pfizers, and those are massive organizations with huge costs and big management teams, and they're reinvesting or investing in hundreds of drugs and massive trials, and a lot of them don't work out, but they still have to be able to still take 15, 20, 30, 40 shots on goal to get one drug that's actually going to be something that can help people at the end of the day. So, their costs are huge or massive compared to some of the smaller biotech. But I think that that's changing. I've seen, big pharma, like I mentioned, they're not really developing their own pipelines as much anymore. They're relying on, little companies like ours and others to, develop the product, take it through some of the riskier stages, get it through some of those phases in the clinic, so that they can acquire them. And I think that'll have some impact on the price of drugs as we go forward. And I think we'll see some younger and smaller biotech companies grow to be the drug companies of the future, where they're actually producing the drug themselves and selling the drugs. And my hope is that those executives, again, do it for the right reasons. I'm not saying we're philanthropic organizations. We're all in business to make money and provide a return for our shareholders. But at the same time, gouging patients that are sick and dying for their last dollars, make them choose between their medicine and their rent or whatever it is something that needs to be addressed, I guess, but something that we're all aware of. And I think there are a lot of pharma companies that make drugs available to people where they can't afford it, and I think maybe there could be a bit more of that. But I certainly think that it comes from the leadership of the company and the executives and their desire to be good, corporate citizens. There's certainly, I think, enough capital or enough money and profit out there to be able to make a good return for your shareholders and your investors, to be able to reinvest in your innovation and your pipeline, and at the same time not have to do what Shkreli did. I couldn't do more with what he did and how he went about it.
So
whatever his business reason might have been.
You mentioned earlier we're in an election year, and certainly I think we're seeing more and more talk about anything from price controls to allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices to control cost. How do we balance innovation with affordability?
That's the $64,000 question. I don't know what the answer to that is. I certainly don't think additional regulation is the answer. I think we need to have stiffer competition in the marketplace. I think a little less regulation, or have the regulatory bodies help a little bit more instead of hindering in terms of getting drugs through the system a little quicker. Maybe with fewer patient profiles that are needed to drive some of the cost of the development down. And as there's more competition in the marketplace and hopefully less regulatory burden, the actual cost of developing drugs would come down, and that would translate to a better priced product at the end of the day, or more reasonably priced product at the end of the day. I think that's more where I would see things going, or hope that things would go. And a lot of these products are they're brand new on the market. They present a brand new life-saving cure or something. And there's a period of time where I think that is still going to command a premium, given that you have a limited amount of time of exclusivity as a company for bringing something to market, and you need to make back the money that's been spent developing that drug. But then as things go on, there are generics that come into play, and as there's more competition and new innovation in that area, I think where the competition comes in and additional options become available, that the price comes down. But I'm sorry to ramble on a bit there, but it is a tough one. It's a very difficult line to walk.
Well, in recent years, there's been talk of paying for value. Is that a solution? And if so, how do you determine value?
I don't know. Again, if you've had a family member or loved one who's ill or dying or in incredible pain because of some affliction, it's difficult to put yourself in that position and decide, what you would pay or what the answer is, and it's an awful place to be put in. All I can say is, you as a member of the I sit with innovators. Sitting with a gentleman the other day who's watched his mother die of very painful metastatic breast cancer that had spread to the bone, and the incredible pain that his mom went through as she passed on. And he vowed to make a product that would help patients in the future be alleviate that very painful way to die. And I'm very happy to be working with them, and we're looking at creating a solution that would allow us to assist in accelerating the development of that product. That may be a more cost-effective way to bring a drug to market, because it's come from a small innovator rather than going through a big pharma company development life cycle that costs a lot more money. I just hope that there are more of those sort of opportunities and situations that come out of what's been a booming biotech sector, and it's encouraged a lot of entrepreneurs and scientists to help to bring those products off their academic shelf and off their workbench and try to get them into commercial viability. And I think ultimately that innovation will hopefully drive the cost of some of these drugs down as they become more competitive products and more availability, and the pharma companies aren't spending millions and millions and millions of dollars developing, but can go and acquire a better price drug. Long answer to a short question, but I don't know exactly what the answer is to find out.
We're at this remarkable moment in science where we can actually talk about not just therapies, but potential cures, whether it's through gene therapy or other regenerative medicine strategies. Are we going to need to think about different pricing markets, particularly as we enter this new era?
Yeah, you'd have to clarify a little bit what you mean about pricing markets, whether you talk about a cure or just a palliative treatment, or something, a treatment that's ongoing and ongoing. But I think a couple of weeks ago, and the CAR Ts are a good example in immunotherapy, where they've been around for a little while now. Companies like Tyson, Juno, and it was all in the media again last week, where patients that had 5 months to live, got a CAR T immunotherapy, and a number of them, their cancers were just gone literally overnight. Sadly, there are some side effects that go with that, and some of the patients don't make it. But given their condition at the time, these are some remarkable results, and it's got the world really excited that there are these potential cures out there for some of those big diseases that we've been working on for years and years and years. It's very encouraging to see that those are possible. So I think we're all working very hard, and the scientists and certainly the clinicians and people that I deal with, this is what they live for, is to see, their research and their inventions and their discoveries, make it to a point where they can really make a difference in people's lives and potentially provide a cure or, alleviate pain for someone who's in a very uncomfortable place in life.
Q BioMed's a publicly held company. I'm wondering, as there's more public discussion about ways to rein in drug prices, how does that change your conversation with investors?
Well, that's right. I just think you want to position yourself as a good corporate citizen. I think the way Martin Shkreli went about it is just to really put a face, and a pretty smug face, on the word greed. And that's not our objective. As we talk to investors and look for investors in our company, we of course want to encourage them to invest in us, because they're going to make a good return on their investment. We want to provide our shareholders value that will grow with us as we grow our pipelines. But at the same time, we're not scared to be greedy. I certainly believe that there's more than enough in terms of return to give an adequate or great return to our investors, to help us provide a product that'll make a difference in people's lives at the same time, and hopefully provide that product at a price that they can afford, or that insurers are happy to pay. It is a balance, and we're not a philanthropic organization. We're not the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We are a business. We are a company, and we do need to be cognizant of that. But I think there's more than enough to go around, so to speak, to make products that are going to make a difference in people's lives, to be able to make enough money to provide a reasonable amount of return to our shareholders and our investors, and my hope is that we attract investors that, understand what we're doing here. We're trying to make drugs that ultimately help people that are sick and dying. And if it was one of their family members, they would want them to have access to that drug, and that we're doing it for the right reasons. And of course, we need to be able to reinvest in our own internal infrastructure and pipeline and development to be able to do the research that we need to do. But we don't need to gouge sick and dying patients for the last penny or hike the price of the drug up thousands of percent because we can. There's nothing illegal about what Shkreli did, I don't think, but it's just a horrible thing to do, and I don't think it's really necessary.
Denis Corin, president of Q BioMed. Denis, thanks for your time today.
Danny, it's been my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.